Hey everyone, Coach Wolverine with you today. Today I want to talk to you guys about something that's actually been kind of bugging me. A little bit of a rant about the personal development industry in multiple facets and why we need to be mindful on the content that we consume. So far too often, especially on social media, I witness individuals speaking in absolutes, as in, this is the right way, this is the only way, whether it be blanketed in the personal development industry around mental health, nutrition, fitness, you name it, right? There is a way that this individual discovered worked, and they are presenting it as an authority of this is the only and the right way. Now, the reason why this bugs me and why I want to kind of bring this up as a warning or a concern is that when we're in a current state, okay, so let's use mental health for an example. And we're on social media or we're scrolling for Google and we're looking for help, right? There is a feeling that we are looking for, and quite often it's validation. So as we're scrolling, as we're going through the Google tabs and pages and whatnot, we will have whatever we're searching for in mind. But because of the way our brain, the human mind, works, we will look for information that will fit the current narrative that we're telling ourselves. Let me repeat that. Information that fits the current narrative that we tell ourselves. So let me ask you this. How often have you, say, had some sort of symptom, okay? And somebody told you, oh, well, maybe this is the sickness that you have. And so you hop on the search machine on that there internet box and you start looking for symptoms, and you are looking for information to prove yourself right, not wrong. Okay, this is where so many of us, myself included, I've done this myself too, and there's oftentimes I catch myself doing this exact thing because we don't want to be wrong. Our ego wants to ensure that we're proving ourselves right. So we'll look for information that fits the current narrative we're telling ourselves, because that's how we're currently feeling. And we do this to validate the feelings that we are currently holding on to make us feel better. This is human habits, okay? So the reason why this bugs me so much in any aspect of the personal development industry. So let's use mental health for the first route of or topic of conversation. I've witnessed pages that will post inspirational quotes that are not, in fact, anything about growth or personal development, but in fact validate our current mind frame around being a victim. Now, the reason why this bothers me is because this is the kind of information that goes viral very, very quick. And so this information that validates other people's, a large umbrella amount of people's feelings gets spread around, and then we think to ourselves, well, this is on the internet, it must be true. We're not doing ourselves any favors. When we go through the steps of personal development in either health and fitness or mental health or anything along those lines, most often the more uncomfortable the information that we find is, the more we feel triggered. 9 out of 10 times the more true that information actually is. But it's uncomfortable. It makes us feel vulnerable. Excuse me. So we don't want to listen to it because it makes us feel uncomfortable. But it's just like when you go to the gym, right? You're doing your reps, you're doing your runs, your sprints, right? You can do all of the sets in the world, but if you're just stopping before you're actually getting uncomfortable in the movement, right? So you say you have a 15 rep set and you just stop at 10 because you wanted to. That last 5 reps that are uncomfortable, that's where the growth happens, because your body has to improvise, adapt, and overcome to that situation. By improvise, your brain sends a signal to recruit more muscle fiber. By adapt, your brain sends a signal to be like, hey, these muscle fibers might need to be used again, right? And then to overcome, the next time you go into the gym, your brain will know to send the signal right away to use those fibers again, because last time it was uncomfortable. So when we consume content, we have to ask ourselves the question, is this actually something that we deem legitimate, or is this something that is just currently feeding our ego? Okay, we all do this. Okay, we have to remember that when it comes to social media, we're all influencers. The root there being influence. Okay, we, myself included, are sharing an experience that we went through, the tools that we got from the experiences, and what worked for us in our lives, in hopes that, hey, these tools that we discovered or that we borrowed from somebody else and passed them on to you, in hopes that it'll work for you too. Okay? When you're consuming content and people make the claim that this is absolute, it's best to look the other way, because it is a very fixed and closed mindset. And unfortunately, the fixed and closed mindset stems from an ego. It's people trying to validate themselves, so they put out this information there for other people to follow, like, share, and make themselves feel validated and feel good about what they're currently going through themselves. It's not actually helping anybody else out there. It's just validating more people to stay in the victim mindset. Okay? Now, let's use the health and nutrition industry, right? There's a lot of people out there that will preach veganism is the way, vegetarianism is the way, carnivore is the way, keto is the way, Atkins, pescatarian, this, that, the other thing. I don't care, okay? When it comes to fitness and nutrition, what works is what works for you, what you can stick to, okay? There's no absolutes. And I've noticed this a lot too, where people will be like, well, I'm a carnivore, this is the only way to eat, and because, and bam, 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 bam. And they'll list off all of this information. Or I'm a vegan, and this is the right way to do it, and this is why. Bam, 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 bam. Okay? There is literally information that will contradict both perspectives on both sides in every single aspect of every single diet, of every single workout routine, of every single lifestyle out there. Okay, there is no absolute, because at the end of the day, the only way a fact is actually a fact is if everybody agrees on it. So if something is said and somebody disagrees with it, that means the information being put forward is not actually a fact. And there's beauty in that. That's okay. When we can go into a situation knowing this information, we allow ourselves to lower our ego and lower our guard to learn. Why does this lifestyle enrich this individual's life compared to me? Because you never know. Every single person in this life has something to teach us. Everyone. Okay? Even the person that you just randomly see in the grocery store will have something to teach us if we're looking hard enough and we're curious enough. But we must be mindful about the content we consume and ask ourselves, is this just feeding my ego to make myself feel better? Or is this actually helping me? Is this moving me closer to the person who I want to be next year, in 5 years, in 10 years? Because if we're wanting a different life, we have to do something differently. And so if we are just continuously looking for information to validate our current feelings, looking for information to validate the current beliefs that we're holding on to, we're going to stay exactly where we're at right now. Okay? This was a very interesting realization for me, because I used to be one of those people who would go through every single Google tab I could to find information that supported the belief or the narrative that I was currently telling myself. And fortunately enough, I have been blessed to have conversations with people to open up that perspective, to ask myself, if I cannot find information to validate myself, or if I am only searching for valid information to validate myself, what is the why behind that? What am I running from? What is the feeling that I'm trying to mask? What demons am I afraid to face because the information that I'm reading I don't agree with or makes me uncomfortable? Growth happens in discomfort. We don't want to be wrong, okay? This doesn't make you a bad person. That doesn't make any of us, it doesn't change who you are at all. This is human habits. Our ego wants to make sure that we don't feel vulnerable. So we will look for that stuff to make sure that we don't feel vulnerable. But the only way that we can grow as a person is to allow ourselves to become vulnerable. This is how we get through to life, to level up to the next version of ourselves, to leave the old version behind as a memory. Okay, so I'm going to finish up with that. Basically, please just be mindful of the content you consume. Okay, I'm not saying here that I'm right about everything. All of my content is purely just experiences that I myself had that changed my life, and I'm fortunate to have clients that I can pass my experiences on to and change their lives. Right? There are other coaches with other methods. There are other counselors with other methods, other therapists with other methods, other influencers with other methods, that they all can work. They can. But are we searching for the information from certain people just to validate the feeling that we're having now, to ignore what we actually have to work on? It's a tough question to answer. But at the end of the day, the harder those questions are to answer, the more uncomfortable they make us feel, the more true they usually are. Have a good one, everyone. Take care.